Let's cross to Perth via Zoom to catch up with our regular contributor to The Informer. Her name is Karalee Katsambanis. Karalee, welcome.
Thank you, George. Hello, listeners and everybody.
Last time you and I spoke, there were 1,000 things happening. And you know what? A week has gone on and 1,000 other things have happened. What's the biggest story in WA and in Perth as we speak?
Well, it's very interesting that you're speaking to me this morning because yesterday, finally, people were told that on December the 8th, people from Victoria and New South Wales are able to come to Western Australia. Families can be reunited. People can see each other that have been separated for 8 months. And it was all go. They don't need to quarantine or anything from next Tuesday. Just a few hours ago, one person has tested positive for COVID-19 in New South Wales, and our Premier is poised to make an announcement any moment. Now, I have to tell you, Talkback has been flooded this morning with people saying one case in New South Wales does not constitute an outbreak. For those of you that aren't aware, our Premier has radio ads running all the time saying that while our hard border is now a controlled border between New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia, he says on every ad, I will not hesitate to reimpose the hard border. Now, we saw this happen a week ago. It had been relaxed. 36 hours later, people were in the air coming from Adelaide to Perth, in the air, in the aeroplane. They landed at Perth Airport and they were told straight to quarantine. So I have always said that this is all about control. It's about political games because there is a March 13 election next year. And as I say, we are literally poised to see that if the Premier now implements the hard border again with one case in New South Wales, I really hope that a lot of people will now see this for what it is, political game playing.
Wow. Do you know, the most incredible thing is I saw a report late last night about a young fly-in, fly-out coal miner, and he had been waiting for a year to see his family. Now, if what you're saying is spot on, and I have no reason to doubt you, he's going to have to wait even longer to see family. That's going to be terrible. The mental damage, the toll it's taking on people and others is awful.
Yeah, look, the thing is, in Western Australia, we've been an island within an island since April the 5th. Now, I must admit, the Labor Premier's decision to close the borders has proved parochially popular, but this is no way to govern a state. We are constantly hearing that he doesn't, see why New South Wales is held up as a gold standard in dealing with their COVID outbreaks. I have regularly said that when New South Wales has an outbreak, they have immaculate contact tracing, they close it down, but they only close down an area. Whereas we saw with the Adelaide thing, I think there were 5 or 7 cases from one family, the border came up. It is incredibly easy to govern by just locking everything up. We don't have a roadmap out of this. We have lost $2.4 billion in tourism from all over Western Australia. And as you know, George, you've been here many times, we are a vast state. But the message went out very early on by our Premier to Australia that we don't need you. We don't need your tourism. We want to remain locked up. Very unfair. There are businesses that have gone to the wall. There's bankruptcies. The mental health with people is just appalling. But of course, and I use my words very carefully with this, if you tell somebody a lie long enough, they begin to believe it. And there are a huge cohort of Western Australians that have been told if COVID-19 comes into WA, you will immediately die. All right, people are completely panicked. This is just ridiculous. We're not saying that COVID-19 is not serious. We know that it's a pandemic, but not everyone will die from it. Life is about risk. You cannot control everything. If that happened, we'd ban the motor car, we'd ban a vehicle, there'd be no road toll. But unfortunately, this is straight from a Labor political playbook. We've seen that Anastasia Palaszczuk did it with the Queensland election. We've seen the Dan Andrews thing. Not everybody in Western Australia is a miner or an engineer. We are normal people with normal families. But unfortunately, we've got one main state-run sort of media. Kerry Stokes owns Channel 7. the daily newspaper, the Sunday newspaper, all the community newspapers, unfortunately, there's very little chance for alternate points of view. And no one is criticising Mark McGowan for doing what he did initially. But I've always said that whether the Premier was Labor, Liberal, Green, whatever, that's the initial action. Every leader would have done that. But we are now 8 months down the track. All right, we're beginning to have a contact tracing regime happening, but we're miles behind. We really honestly are. And this locking up and putting up a border is no way for anyone to live.
Now, I've also heard, and those words of yours are resonating, there are people going, we can't believe what's going on in WA, but the point that you make is extraordinarily valid. But we're also hearing that you've had, I think, the first attack by a bull shark in 100 years.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Look, no one quite knows. This was a 54-year-old Broome local who was swimming. There's a lot of jellyfish, I think Irukandji, around near Broome at that time. Unfortunately, he got taken, he was mauled by a bull shark, and you're right, it's the first one in nearly 100 years. Talking about water, we've also had nearer to home, we've got amazing coastal beaches. Our coast is unlike the coast of the east of Australia, but unfortunately there was an Ethiopian boy, 16 years old, went down with 3 mates to swim at sunset, ended up saving one of his mates from what we think was a rip, but he unfortunately lost his life. Tragic story. This is a young man who'd won a scholarship to a school in Western Australia. His mum, his other family was back in Ethiopia. He'd been staying with relatives. We still don't know whether the mother and the family over there actually know that he's lost his life. I would imagine that they do know, but I'm not going to name him for that reason. But a huge warning that let's hope when these borders do open, come over to Western Australia, but please take care in our ocean. It's very deceptive. It all looks beautiful, but there are more and more cases. Even on the Swan River, someone's fallen off the back of a boat yesterday. Very deceptive. We all need to remember water safety.
Wear a buoyancy vest, read the signs. That's what I was always told.
That's right.
Karalee, we need to get them to do that right now. Karalee Katsambanis has promised to do this each and every week for us. She's amazing. She's been on point with just about everything we've done. Continue to do it. Talk to you next week. Thank you very much.
Look forward to it.